Warm greetings from the High 10. It is Sunday, March 22nd, 2020. I'd like to bring you more information pertaining to the coronavirus. And there's a lot of myths and misinformation pertaining to this COVID-19. And I want to bring you some information from Live Science if you need verification for the storyline. The coronas the coronavirus did not escape from a lab. Here's how we know. The persistent myth can be put to bed. As the novel coronavirus causing COVID-19 spreads across the globe, with cases surpassing 284,000 worldwide today, March 20th, misinformation is spreading almost as fast. This was uploaded, I guess, 2 days ago. One persistent myth is that the virus, called SARS-CoV-2, was made by scientists and escaped from a lab in Wuhan, China, where the outbreak began. A new analysis of SARS-CoV-2 may finally put that latter idea to bed. A group of researchers compared the genome of this novel coronavirus with the 7 other coronaviruses known to infect humans: SARS, MERS, and SARS-CoV-2, which can cause severe disease, along with HQU1, NL63, OC43, and 229E, which typically cause just mild symptoms. The researchers wrote March 17th in the journal Nature Medicine. Our analyses clearly show that SARS-CoV-2 is not a laboratory construct or a purposefully manipulated virus, they write in the journal article. Christian Anderson, an associate professor of immunology and microbiology at Scripps Research, and his colleagues looked at the genetics template for the spike proteins that protrude from the surface of the virus. The coronavirus uses these spikes to grab the outer walls of its host cells and then enter those cells. They specifically looked at the gene sequences responsible for 2 key features of these spike proteins: the grabber, called the receptor binding domain, that hooks onto host cells, and the so-called cleavage site that allows the virus to open and enter those cells. That analysis showed that the hook part of the spike had evolved to target a receptor on the outside of human cells called ACE2, which is involved in blood pressure regulation. It is so effective at attaching to human cells that the researchers said the spike proteins were the result of natural selection and not genetic engineering. Here's why SARS-CoV-2 is very closely related to the virus that causes severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS, which fanned across the globe nearly 20 years ago. Scientists have studied how SARS-CoV differs from SARS-CoV-2 with several key letter changes in the genetic code. Yet in computer simulations, the mutations in SARS-CoV-2 don't seem to work very well at helping the virus bind to human cells. If scientists had deliberately engineered this virus, they wouldn't have chosen mutations that computer models suggest won't work. I don't know how to say that. If scientists had deliberately engineered this virus, they wouldn't have chosen mutations that computer models suggest won't work. But it turns out nature is smarter than scientists, and the novel coronavirus found a way to mutate that was better and completely different from anything scientists could have created, the study found. Another nail in the escape from evil lab theory: the overall molecular structure of this virus is distinct from the known coronaviruses and instead most closely resembles viruses found in bats and pangolins that have been little studied and never known to cause humans any harm. If someone were seeking to engineer a new coronavirus as a pathogen, they would have constructed it from the backbone of a virus known to cause illness, according to a statement from Scripps. Where did the virus come from? The research group came up with 2 possible scenarios for the origin of SARS-CoV-2 in humans. One scenario followed the origin stories for a few recent coronaviruses that have wreaked havoc in human populations. In that scenario, we contracted the virus directly from an animal: civets in the case of SARS and camels in the case of Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, MERS. In the case of SARS-CoV-2, the researchers suggested that animal suggests that animal was a bat, which transmitted the virus to another intermediate animal, possibly a pangolin. Some scientists have said that brought the virus to humans. In that possible scenario, the genetic features that make the new coronavirus so effective at infecting human cells, its pathogenic powers would have been in place before hopping to humans. In the other scenario, those pathogenic features would have evolved only after the virus jumped from its animal host to humans. Some coronaviruses that originated in pangolins have hook structure, that receptor binding domain, similar to that of SARS-CoV-2. In that way, a pangolin either directly or indirectly passed this virus onto a human host. Then, once inside a human host, the virus could have evolved to have its other stealth feature, the cleavage site that lets it easily break into human cells. Once it developed that capacity, the researchers said the coronavirus would be even more capable of spreading between people. All of this technical detail could help scientists forecast the future of this pandemic. If the virus did enter human cells in a pathogenic form, that raises the probability of future outbreaks. The virus could still be circulating in the animal population and might again jump to humans ready to cause an outbreak. But the chances of such future outbreaks are lower if the virus must first enter the human population and then evolve the pathogenic properties, the researchers said. Woo, wow, that was a lot. 6 minutes, sorry. Well, that is what came from that. So they're basically saying this was not a man-made virus in a lab, and that is the said information. So I'm going to go with that. And you see that they brought to the forefront that they believe this came from a bat, and the bat transmitted the germs, disease, whatever, to another animal, and then the animal to a human being. So I'm going to give you some symptoms of this COVID-19, and we'll go from there. According to a report in the Journal of the American Medical Association, as many as 98% of COVID-19 patients have a fever. Between 76% and 82% have a dry cough. And 11 to 44% report exhaustion and fatigue. The disease appears to become more severe with age, with the 30 to 79-year-old range predominating the detected cases in Wuhan, where the outbreak began, according to a study in JAMA. Children seem to be at less risk of suffering noticeable symptoms of the disease. In more serious cases of COVID-19, patients experience pneumonia, which means their lungs begin to fill up with pockets of pus or fluid. This leads to intense shortness of breath and painful coughing. Currently, testing for the virus that causes COVID-19 in the United States is limited to people with severe symptoms, according to Paul Benninger, the director of the Emergency Preparedness Research, Evaluation, and Practice Program at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, who spoke on a university webcast March 2nd. This means that it isn't appropriate to be tested at the first sign of a fever or sniffle. Seeking medical care for mild illness can also potentially transmit that illness or lead to catching new illnesses in the hospital or clinic, Benninger added. If you become ill with these symptoms and live in or have traveled to any area where COVID-19 is spreading, which now includes parts of the U.S., the CDC recommends calling your doctor first rather than traveling to a clinic. Physicians work with state health departments and the CDC to determine who should be tested for the new virus. However, the CDC also recommends that people with COVID-19 or any respiratory illness monitor their symptoms carefully. Worsening shortness of breath is reason to seek medical care, particularly of older individuals or people with underlying health conditions. The CDC information page has more information on what to do if you are sick. So basically, that's said information. And this is something else I want to mention too, because I was telling someone about this earlier. You ever heard of anything in the colder, freezing climates, such as Alaska, Antarctica, and here is something mentioned right down here. And this is called the coronavirus basics. The novel coronavirus, now called SARS-CoV-2, causes the disease COVID-19. The virus was first identified in Wuhan, China on December 31st, 2019. Since then, it has spread to every continent except Antarctica. And why is that? Because you know it's cold as you know what in Antarctica. And I was just telling one today, my brother, you ain't heard nothing about none of them places. Anybody talking about they sick up there? Yes. Quit playing. The death rate appears to be higher than that of the seasonal flu, but it also varies by location as well as a person's age, underlying health conditions, among other factors. For instance, in Hubei province, the epicenter of the outbreak, the death rate reached 2.9%, whereas it was just 0.4% in other provinces in China, according to a study published February 18th in the China CDC Weekly. Scientists aren't certain where the virus originated, though they know that coronaviruses, which also include SARS and MERS, are passed between animals and humans. Research comparing the genetic sequence of SARS-CoV-2 with the viral database suggests it originated in bats. Since no bats were sold at the seafood market in Wuhan at the disease's epicenter, researchers suggest an intermediate animal, possibly the pangolin, an endangered mammal, is responsible for the transmission to humans. There are currently no treatments for the disease, but labs are working on various types of treatments, including a vaccine. Okay. So that's the said information about the symptoms. So look out for a fever and a cough, and worst case scenario, respiratory breathing troubles. And that is what you need to look out for your symptoms if you think you may have it. But as I state from this article, the outbreak took place in China, and now it's affected 75 countries. And if effective controls aren't put into place, COVID-19 could ultimately infect between 40% and 70% of the population worldwide in the coming year, according to Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health epidemiologist Mark Lipstitch said. So they're saying most of the cases will be mild. Some people might show no symptoms at all, but the prospect of being infected with a new virus can be frightening. The symptoms to look out for, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, are fever, coughing, and shortness of breath. And these symptoms usually appear between 2 days and 2 weeks of exposure to the virus. And mainly 98%, as I stated, had fever. 76% and 82% had a dry cough, and 11 to 44% exhaustion and fatigue. So please look out for those symptoms of fever, a cough, and shortness of breath and fatigue. And call your doctor first before going to the hospital or clinic to seek medical attention. Just contact your doctor first if you think you're coming down with something, or if you think you have the COVID-19. That's my said information on this said storyline. And this is by Live Science if you want to verify the said information. And it also has other links inside that you can log on to get other information pertaining to the COVID-19 and said information. And just to bring you that, the symptoms and the fact that this is not a man-made disease. For those who want to go off with your conspiracy theories, they've done some research and they've traced this information back to other viruses, and it ain't man-made, and nobody dropped it outside and blew it on someone. It's craziness you crazy people come up with. And that's something I have been seeing just in general with all types of storylines pertaining to anything negative and detrimental to man. Some of you will just think everything's a conspiracy. If it's the government, it's always the government did something. The government did this. They're messing with people's brains. They're secretly snatching people off the streets to do things to them. Or you think it's this group kidnapping people for sexual perversions and this and that. It's always everything's a conspiracy. You all can never just accept the fact that we are dirty beasts and anything can happen between man and animal. That anything that you touch, you can become infected with something nasty, a disease, a virus, contamination, a fungus. A lot of the stuff that we have going on in the world right now is because people are gross. They're filthy. That's why you have roaches, bed bugs, ringworm, stomach viruses. Something came in contact with fecal matter. Now you're sick. Do you see what I'm saying? And I don't understand why a lot of people don't get that. Why you can't accept the fact that animals are nasty. They can't wash themselves. They can't clean themselves. And then you have a human who knows better to clean himself, herself, wash their hands thoroughly, wipe down the surfaces in their home, their house, their tables, the door handles. You do have to wipe things off sometimes. And a lot of people are not clean. And they do filthy things with their fingers and their body. And then they go right out here and they touch your door handle to your home, to a business where they work. They touch your plate at the restaurant, your silverware. You forget about that? Somebody rolls your silverware at the restaurant. Somebody touches your plate and washes it and puts it up on the rack to dry. And then they pick it back up and put it in another place after it is dry. Then they touch it and put your food on it. Then somebody else touches it, as I stated in the last video, and then they bring that same plate to your table. And you just have no idea, some of you. I have seen with my own eyes how filthy people are. And the nastiest people I have seen, with the filthiest of houses, the most disgusting of cars. Yes, car is in high relation to how a person keeps their house. You get in the car with somebody with a nasty car, you can best believe their house is nasty. They go hand in hand. I'm keeping it 100. Filthy people work in restaurants. Filthy people work in daycares and schools and kitchens and restaurants. Ask me how I know. Because I've seen how some people live. And they are filthy and disgusting, and they don't clean up after themselves. They don't wash things down in their house. They have dirty dishes in their house. They don't dust. They don't vacuum. They don't mop the floor. They don't bleach. They don't sanitize. They don't clean their toilet. They don't clean their tub. Then they got the nerve to go right out here and cut up your food in a processing plant. The butcher shop. Pack your food, whether it be fresh fruit, vegetables. Yeah, see, come on with it. Serving you food at the restaurant, cutting up your food, preparing your food in the kitchen, and they are filthy and disgusting. Nails not cut, dirty fingernails, sneezing, coughing, hacking, don't wash their hands after they've made a bowel movement, urinated, all of that. And then you wonder about this. Why not? Why not? We already know most of these viruses that have come to fruition from years ago, the chicken flu, all that old crazy stuff, that was from some people over in Oriental country sleeping with chickens in their home. Wherever they were sleeping, the chickens were sleeping in the same room or beneath them under their beds. Now, how's somebody going to sleep and inhale a chicken and then go out here and work and touch things? And God forbid they were actually working with food, restaurants, and they've been sleeping with chickens. Do you see what I'm saying? You inhale anything so long as you're breathing. So if you're around animals all day, touching wild animals, that's your work or whatever. You like being around them for fun. I don't know. Now you're going out here and you're touching surfaces, door handles, work surfaces. And God forbid you're actually working where you're cutting up livestock and all that and processing it. And then you're going back home and getting in your car, steering wheel, all those type of things. You see where I'm going with this? So we really can't be shocked. It's just more devastating because people have died from the transmission of this virus. But naturally, it would go haywire in countries and cities that have a high population of people, because the more people you have in a city and demographic, you're going to have an outbreak of something. That's just common sense. I don't care what it is. It could be a venereal disease. It could be the flu. It could be whatever. A lot of people in a space, a lot of people in the place, a lot of people walking beside each other, working beside each other, living beside each other. 1, 2 people get something. That's all she wrote. And now we have a pandemic from China that has reached Italy, the UK, now the US. Because people walk beside each other, eat beside each other, touching things, riding trains, planes, cars. And that's all it takes, is one infected person to bring a house of cards down. I'm praying for all of you out there. Please stay in the know, stay vigilant, have faith, wash your hands, keep up your hygiene, be careful of the places you're going and fraternizing and touching things. Wear gloves if need be. I've got latex gloves up to the wazoo. Believe that. And I will wear them when I leave out of here if I have to. I don't have any mask at the moment, but I don't plan on doing a lot of running around. But just saying, you need to try to stay protected and just pray. Some of you may not pray. Some of you may not even believe in God. That's your preference. But I am prayerful for myself and others. And I'm leaning on faith that this virus dies down. But know that this isn't a man-made disease. It wasn't fabricated in a laboratory. This is passed from an animal to a human. So know the signs and be vigilant in trying to keep yourself well and to stay away from a lot of people if need be. You're going to have to stay in a while. Go out, yes, take care of your business, but be mindful and careful and try to take precautions. Like, share, subscribe, drop your comments below. Thanks for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans. Stay safe out there, America, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.